Hello, my name is Miss Andrea, and I'm attempting to enter a message in the chat, but it is not working. There we go. Um, okay, so I left a couple of messages, and they say as follows. Even if you are the only person in the room, you are important. I am making this video regardless of audience so that I have content for later. I may make it into shorts, or I don't know, cut it up and make videos with that. Please feel free to ask any questions regarding homeschooling, which is my specialty, or please go ahead and discuss the topic at hand, which is the problem of teachers quitting the profession with me. So, in lieu of someone asking questions right now, I'm going to jump into what's going on Reddit right now and discuss that. So, I'm also making ornaments for a Christmas tree, making paper angels, and we'll be gluing pom-poms to the top for the heads. So, teachers quitting, teachers quitting, period. Someone wrote, I can't remember the creator, but I saw an I Quit teacher on YouTube a few months ago, and it really stuck with me. She said she quit because admin is scared of Central, Central is scared of parents, and parents are scared of their kids, and the kids ain't scared of nobody. Well, did she nail it or what? I think about this almost every day. If anyone remembers who the teacher was, feel free to share. I quit, and this person continues. Apparently, they were a teacher. And they said, I quit after 11 years as a classroom teacher, but I stuck around after finishing my master's as a school counselor. I could never in a million years return to the classroom. If I were ever asked, I'd probably quit on the spot. I run a homeschool program, and I do see some truth in the quote that this person made here. I don't have Central. I am admin. But I do see some truth, and I do feel a little beholden to the parents, especially since they pay me directly. And the parents really do jump when their kids say jump. I mean, they do. It seems like the kids really have a lot of say in what they're going to do and in what they're not going to do, which becomes a problem when I or one of my teachers have assigned homework that is to be done, and the child just opts not to do it. And not just that, like and I understand. I know how to slowly over the course of the year cajole a kid into being more productive. So it's not just a homework issue, but it's a talking over the teacher while they're talking issue. It's a having side conversations while the teacher is talking issue. I run a very relaxed environment so kids can get up, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, do whatever they need to do. But sometimes they go overboard with that and abuse that a little bit. So sometimes there's just too much movement. Sometimes they'll just start derailing the conversation that I'm trying to lead as a teacher. And what I end up with is some parents come to me because their kids are seeing this and their kids are upset because other kids aren't acting right. And then on the other hand, I see, if I say, oh, your kid did this weird thing today, a parent might giggle and go, yeah, that sounds about right. And I'm like, okay, that's stressful for me. And so let's continue. Someone wrote, this issue comes from No Child Left Behind. Students gained all the power when it was explained to admin that their school would be judged based on graduation rate. No more failures, no more suspensions. Everyone passes, everyone graduates at the expense of accountability. And someone replied, yeah, New York City went from 50% grad rate to 80% to 87%. And kids do stuff I did and can't fail. I failed so many classes. These kids do the same stuff and we pass them. I still turned out okay. I'm a teacher. Failing doesn't have to ruin your life, but it's a lesson they won't learn. I graduated in 86 from high school. I guess No Child Left Behind had started then, but I only remember like maybe 3% of my classmates not graduating. Now, I've looked back at my report card and I found it to be a little confusing in that all of the teachers praised me for being a bright, inquisitive student. And I still got a fair share of C's. So, top-notch behavior, good questions in class, did my homework, didn't start a problem, but I would finish it. I would. If someone started something, I would finish it. Praised for being a good student, and still got C's. I think I graduated with like a 3.4 or something like that. And it was because I either got A's or C's. There were no B's. There was no in between. So the grades that I came out of high school with are much lower than a good student would get today. So there's definitely some truth to that. Someone wrote, when Timmy is failing AP Calc because he didn't have the mastery of the prerequisite skills, it's somehow the teacher's fault, even though he shouldn't have been in the program in the first place. Totally being set up to fail. A lot of teachers choose like AP and honors classes because they're expecting to get the best and brightest students. But I agree, what is happening is kids are ending up in these classes that are not the best and brightest students. They're just like okay students, and they've been like pushed through the system. And so they don't understand, they don't have the skills required to be in those classes. And so they start failing. And then that becomes a problem for the teacher who's being made responsible for the fact that the child is failing this class, but the child didn't come into the class with the skills that are required to keep up. And so that's not necessarily a problem. Well, I almost said that that's not necessarily a problem for me, but I would be lying because I deal with kids who are taught at home. Sometimes the parents overestimate what the kid is supposed to do. And so I'm running around spending the first half of the year filling academic holes so that children can keep up with the class. And it does slow everyone down. And I think that's where some of the bad behavior comes from, the insecurity of the students. They don't feel like, they know that they're struggling. And so they act out in behavior that deflects from the issue at hand. And so, yeah, if I put those two issues together, I would have to agree that unprepared students who are being pushed through, students who aren't being forced to do the work that it takes to get to the next level, are ending up in classes where they're not equipped. And it just sets up a horrible domino effect of potential failure. And so it just results in poor behavior in the class and academic failure and angry parents. And it is super hard to win when that is happening. Okay, let's find another one. So a personal story I heard this week from one of my own teachers is he left public school because he felt like students were behaving in a criminal way, and he literally just didn't feel safe in the classroom in public school. So he worked with homeschool kids, expecting, a different type kid. And yeah, I see discouragement in him. However, he told me the other day that a fellow teacher in his former school quit because 2 children in a row committed suicide, and he couldn't handle it emotionally. So, like, the kids aren't just a problem. These kids are stressed all the way out, and I feel for them greatly. And honestly, I have less than 30 students in my little micro school. So if kids were harming themselves to that level, I would be devastated. I would not be okay. I wouldn't be okay. And so there's a lot more going on here. So this one here says, new teacher quit before first period. It's supposed to be funny. Let's see if it is. It says, I had a math teacher quit in December. Another teacher was holding their class, and that connection just went to the gym. I saw that connections teacher in the room today and asked what happened because I thought we got a new teacher. We had. He came in, he saw his homeroom during homeroom, and he decided he'd pay the $800 to break the contract and walked out. The kids didn't listen, and when he tried to call admin to tell them a boy said to get off my tip to try and get him removed, admin told him basically that wasn't a real issue and to handle it himself. I never even got to meet him. He didn't make it to first period. I wish I could say this would make admin get off their body parts, but something tells me they won't. I just got distracted by glue on my hand. Humor tag. Yeah, whatever. Edit. People are talking about teacher prep programs. This was a waiver teacher. He had no teacher prep programs. So he didn't meet the qualifications to be a teacher, but they were so hard up to have teachers that they hired him. He was a retired engineer. Oh, yeah, no, they're not going to put up with that nonsense. Who came in because he saw the posting and thought he'd help out. Admin left the guy with no training on his first day, just on his own, and he left because he didn't need the job and he didn't have a certificate that they could take from him. I don't even think I have a comment. I really think that speaks for itself, because I've had kids go off on me. And I've just called the parent and been like, come get them. Because I'm not doing that. But once again, I'm fortunate. I run a homeschool program. And I'm of the mindset now, and this does help me a lot, that I have to pre-interview every parent and child. And if I get the indication that the child doesn't want to be homeschooled and that the child isn't in agreement with my program, that I'm not going to have them in, because nothing derails a school body faster than kids who don't want to be there. Okay, so I'm going to find another story. So this is a query. Why do half of all new teachers quit within 3 years? Question. And can this be prevented? Why go through 4 years of college and accrue all that debt just to leave so abruptly? Does student teaching not accurately prepare teachers for what their first year may be like? I never did student teaching. I remember when my mother did student teaching, and she loved those kids so much. She also loved her job as a teacher as well. Oh, I kind of did it backwards. I wanted that line to go all the way across, but it is what it is. Disgruntled veteran teacher and vice principal says, in the simplest terms, I would say low pay, bad benefits, bad administration, few resources, and constant unnecessary changes to curriculum, wasted funding, lying politicians, parents that act like Karens, students that are more interested in TikTok than anything you'll teach them, school shootings, drugs, violence, sexual assaults in schools, classrooms that need repairs that will never be done, teachers being accused of things that they never did because the students are trying to not take responsibility for their actions. Trying to take responsibility for the reactions. Students trying to start fights with teachers so they can go ahead and post a video and get likes. Special needs students that don't get the support they need. Parents that claim that special needs kids doesn't need additional support because they're just a late bloomer. Yes. Parents attacking teachers. Teachers being judged for what they do outside of the school on their own time. Ridiculously long hours. Teachers mandatory overtime where you don't get any additional money, forced to take on additional duties, lack of support staff, evaluations being performed on teachers by people barely qualified to hold a clipboard, and laws and policies being put into effect that turn teachers into villains and or make us teach like a 1790 Puritan village where if you're not teaching the Bible, you're a witch. That's a whole mouthful. That is a whole entire mouthful. Once again, I teach a much smaller demographic. I teach homeschoolers, but I still saw some truth here and there with parents thinking their kids don't need the intervention, or parents thinking their kids need like one-on-one attention when your program never offered that. So there are unrealistic expectations And that's part of the problem. Someone added to that list of why half of teachers quit. Uneven support transitioning from teacher in training to teacher. Most mentor problems at schools, if they even exist, are a joke generally. An overworked and more senior teacher trying to carve out time to support the new teacher. There's very little allowance for error and very little guidance in many schools. It can be so overwhelming and soul crushing. There's a steep learning curve. Add that to the many other factors on your list, and it makes sense. Cut their losses and find a better paying, less stressful job to repay their loans. Um, I have a relative who was a teacher. I never expected them to be a teacher, but they ended up going and teaching special ed, middle school. Um, and after about a year in, I would ask, "How's teaching going?" And she would cry. We never got to the point where she didn't cry. Um, it's been like 14 years. Um, she's still crying. Um, I'm not sure why she stays. I'm I'm not sure why she stays. She cries because she feels for the students in the special ed program who aren't really getting the resources that they need, and there's very little she can do to affect it. Okay. Someone wrote, "These are all the reasons I'm nervous to get into the profession. Don't all jobs have their challenges, though? It seems like the burnout with teaching and stress is way worse. Majority of posts on Reddit, videos, TikTok, teachers I personally know have very negative things to say. It's rare that I find positive things about teaching. It's actually sad. This career is meant to teach and nurture the next generation, and people go in with the best of intentions, and it's their dreams. It's like their dreams get crushed. As much as I want to be a teacher, I'm scared that I will have that crushed feeling too. Um, Even the fact that I probably teach some of the nicest kids on the planet. Um, and I feel like I have good relationships with most of my kids and not bad relationships with the rest. Um, Sometimes I get super demoralized. Sometimes I often wake up with a child on my mind. Um, what can I do different with that child? Or is that child still sick? Um, are these two kids getting along? As a teacher, you really do become invested in the mental and emotional well-being of your students. And when you're being given students who haven't been prepared for whatever it is that is in front of them, it's heartbreaking for you. It's heartbreaking for you. Okay. Someone said the "it's a calling" is a narrative that teachers have or teachers are given that needs to be stopped. Gas stations get their lives threatened too, but that isn't a calling. The narrative has been used to justify the poor working conditions for centuries. I am not feeling like picking up the phone anymore, no matter how much I like certain aspects of my job. Okay, so yeah, so far we have the administrators are scared of the parents, and the parents are scared of the kids. On the other hand, we have teachers who don't feel equipped to do their job nor supported to do their jobs. Okay, So someone's asking for legal advice. It says, I'm a piano teacher and I teach around 135 private students a week for a small music school. This is closer to what I do, except not music, mostly history. I work 7 days a week. Can't work 2 days a week. 10 hours a day, oftentimes with no breaks in my schedule, teaching anywhere from 14 to 20 students a day. To say the job is tough is an understatement. On top of this, it is an incredibly hostile workplace with the owner constantly threatening a myriad of things and ruling with an iron fist. 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, and a pain in the butt, boss? I have the most students of any teacher by an overwhelming majority. This person must be good or a doormat. Most people like 10 a week. Most people teach like 10 a week. And somehow my boss over time has put serious restrictions on my life. No days off, no lunch breaks. You can't use the bathrooms at work anymore, even if we are there 10 hours. It's getting worse and worse all the time. I asked her if I could have 1 day off a week, and she lost her mind on me 2 years ago. I've been here 5 years, and I put my notice in last Friday that I am leaving the third week of September, mostly giving them advance notice to fill my spot and cover my students. My boss screamed at me, cried, hurled insults, and then proceeded to tell me that she can sue me for ruining her business, as my leaving will make her studio lose a lot of money. This is Ohio, by the way. I apologized profusely and summarily left. I am literally stuck working for her. Am I literally stuck working for her? Or is there a way I can quit without her suing me and ruining my life? Okay, this is not normal teacher. This is not a normal teacher issue. This is abuse. I'm guessing this person is underpaid. This is against the law. I'm guessing they're a contractor. What I would do in this case is I would get sick. I would disappear. I wouldn't come in for 3 days. I would be unreachable. On the fourth day, I would call and report that I'd been in the hospital and tell them I'm not coming back, because they have literally worked to death. And so go with it. Yeah, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my whole life. But let's get back to the actual teacher. 50 teachers and staff quit due to student behavior. 50 teachers and support staff have left the Brevard County School District in the past 2 years because the school district and police don't support them with student behavior issues. How do administrators think teachers can do their job with kids attacking them? I'm never going to put up with a child putting their hands on me. That is what it is. So it says, last time I checked, we're educators, not correctional officers. My friend's a CO and he makes more than I do, plus has better benefits. Pay me what he gets and give me those benefits, and then we can talk about dealing with violent kids. But even COs have protection and support from violent individuals. And there's a bigger New York Post story on this. Here's some of the responses. There will be a bunch of people that started teaching in 1999 to 2000 that will bolt in the next few years. A bunch of that would have normally worked, a few more years despite having the years to retire, but it's going to say, F it, I'm out because behavior has gotten so bad. Someone said, having been hired in 2001, with this being my 22nd year of teaching, with 35 years needed for a full pension, the early retirement penalty does not look so bad. Someone says, I'll be 50 when I finish year 27. Honestly, I would like to teach 5 or 10 years past that, but teaching now barely resembles what teaching was 20 years ago. I'm sick of the BS from admins and their impotent leadership. I'm sick of living under the delusion that Common Core and standardized testing makes a difference. We're going to have a whole video on Common Core, because Common Core just means that all the kids are on the same educational track from state to state. And too many people say Common Core when they mean the chosen curriculum. I'm sick of school culture that lets students off the hook for any meaningful accountability academically and behaviorally. I still love working with teenagers. I feel like I have more to give. But forget what public school has become. Someone replies, exactly, I'm in the same boat. My evaluations have always been stellar, so I figure I get plenty of rope to play with before I pop up on some admin's radar. I cannot care less about the standards or data, but I do enjoy working with students, asterisk. And I plan on writing this stuff out until retirement becomes an option. I'm perfectly fine with phoning it in whenever I need an easy day. The asterisk means offer not valid for students that are too lazy and uninterested to engage with other students or me. That's really funny. Yikes, guys. I've only been doing this for 5 years, running my homeschool program. Before that, I was only working with parents. I was only counseling parents. And then I was counseling homeschoolers to get them into colleges. Once I get my not-for-profit school in order, chances are I'm not going to be in the classroom. I will do admin. I will do guidance counseling. I'm just not scary. The kids are not scared of me. And so even the nicest kids kind of walk over me sometimes, and it's exhausting. Okay, so there's a thread that says teachers who quit, tell your stories here. Okay. I never thought I would be in this position, but I'm thinking of quitting. Even worse, I'm considering quitting mid-year. It's October. The thought of going to that school for 8 more months makes me want to drive off a cliff instead of driving to work. And I am unfortunately not being hyperbolic. I'm not a newbie. This is my 5th year. I taught through COVID. I taught in person, completely virtually, and hybrid. Same here. And I was fine. I liked the challenge. I found it invigorating. But this year so far, the last year, have completely broke me. I feel like a zombie, like a shell of a person. I'm definitely burned out, but I don't really know what to do from there. The summer did not refresh me. I don't want to go into detail about why I'm quitting, but to quickly summarize, kids are disrespectful. Consequences, punishments are impossible to give. Agreed. Kids are multiple grade levels behind. Agreed. Parents are insinuating that we are either lazy or indoctrinating their kids. Our time is consistently wasted in stupid meetings that could be an email. And let me circle back to kids are disrespectful. A lot of teachers don't want to say this, but a big part of why I'm thinking of quitting is because of the kids. They are rude, argumentative, unable to control their impulses, disengaged, unmotivated, disruptive, and some are flat out disrespectful. Not all of them, of course. Some kids are great. Teachers who left, please tell me your story. Tell me there's hope. The kids I have aren't disrespectful as a rule, but they do tend to have some disrespectful moments. And I do find myself correcting them often. Um, Something weird happened during COVID because half of the kids I had before COVID. Um, and they just came out of it more aloof, more disconnected, more depressed. I just think, and the ones that actually got COVID multiple times, they can be a little zombie-ish sometimes. I feel like a lot of what's happening right now is directly related to what these kids went through, being locked in the house all the time, doing school online, not having the same connections, not having the same activities, and then being thrown back out into the world. And I saw a video yesterday based on a study where they were saying that being kept in a reclusive situation um, causes brain wiring to devolve. Um, and it takes time to build that wiring back. So I have to wonder if that might be part of the problem. So someone says, let me drink some water. My throat is dry. Former physics teacher, current systems engineer, says, I was working at a great school in a district that hasn't raised teacher pay in nearly a decade. FYI, I own this program, so I'm definitely underpaying myself in order to pay the teachers, right? It says my master's degree and I went to Home Depot to unload trucks every weeknight. They took their master's degree and themselves to Home Depot to unload trucks every weeknight so they could feed their family and pay their mortgage. So I moved to a district with significantly better pay and found that the price of a higher salary was working in a horribly run school. At the request of one parent whose borderline A grade daughter tanked the final exam with a D minus and got a B, I was required to change the grades of nearly 1/3 of all my students to higher grades. I asked my assistant principal to help with a science demo, and he, without discussing it with me, decided it was dangerous and had the district send a cease and desist letter to me. Wow. When I confronted him about it, he told me that if I didn't like his decision, maybe you could go work at a private school. I spent 3 years being belittled, fearing for my probationary job due to veiled threats, and being told that my expertise was a problem because other unqualified teachers who also taught my subject weren't able to teach the content I required my students to experience. Whew. I started an online master's degree in mechanical engineering, working 10 to 20 hours per week at night after my kids went to bed, and kept teaching. In the most recent school year, I started looking for jobs to no avail. My brilliant wife found a friend of a friend of a friend online whose husband worked at an aerospace company. He agreed to talk to me, and we discussed my issue for 6 months before a job opened up on his team. He is now my boss. Good for you, because that sounded nuts. And honestly, my current science teacher dealt with people being intimidated with him also. Now I work for significantly better money and benefits as an engineer. My company is paying for the remainder of my degree. They are offering supplementary training and giving me experience in a variety of skills and fields. I get generous paid time off, retirement contributions, and investment opportunities. My base entry salary is nearly as large as the maximum salary I could have ever made as a teacher, and the realistic cap by the end of my career is more than double that figure. I only regret I didn't get this training in college and start this career a decade ago. Such a shame that teaching didn't pan out. All they needed to do was offer me enough to live comfortably and let me do my job, and I would have stayed forever. It's not too much to ask. They added, there's hope. I quit less than a week before the first teacher workday, and there were no repercussions. I resisted the urge to blast them and sent very light resignations to my principal in the district. I have zero guilt. Whatever missed opportunities my students experience as a result of my quitting is on the shoulders of admin and district honchos who can't bother to value my job in one way or another. Providing for my family and taking care of myself is not something to feel guilty about. Oh, that was emotionally hard. Someone said, my husband quit after 11 years, even before COVID and all of the current nonsense. It was such a relief for both of us once he finally called it, because for the last several years of his career, he kept hoping that once X, Y, or Z fell into place, he would be okay. Those things happened, and he was still miserable. He was such a talented, caring teacher. I fell in love with him in part because of that. He could only be that teacher for the kids who cared, who were engaged, and who respected him. It was the shitheads, but also the apathetic kids who broke him. Not to mention, he could not motivate himself to stay on top of his grading, high school English, and other stuff after school. I'll tell you what, it really is hard to grade papers when it's clear that the kids didn't care. It was a vicious cycle. He had grading to do, so I would leave him alone. He wouldn't actually get it done. It would pile up even more, and he got more and more stressed, and I got more and more lonely. He quit in 2019. I spent the year doing things around the house to get ready for our twins due in spring of 2020, mentally healing, trying to figure out the next steps. He drove deliveries for one of those boxes of damaged groceries companies, which was perfect for us during those early scary days of the pandemic because he easily kept his distance from strangers and brought home free food when mistakes were made. Now he works as a property manager for a local nonprofit that he has long admired. It is amazing. He leaves work at work, so he has energy for me and our kids. His superiors like him and trust him to do his job without micromanaging. His hours are far more flexible, so he can make it to doctor's appointments or take care of the kids if I have my own appointments. I'm an elementary ESL teacher myself, or at least I was for several years in the before times. And I will probably go back to it in some capacity when my boys hit school age. You couldn't pay me enough to be a classroom teacher again. If you want to stay in a school setting, I do recommend finding a niche. I loved teaching my small groups and was also really good at the necessary data and compliance tasks. I set my own schedule, so I made sure I could mostly get everything done during the school day. I did my job and I did it well, but I didn't stay late and I really took stuff home. Yes, there's a lot of frustrating BS, but I had it way better than any classroom teachers. And so I've got like 15 minutes left before I sign off. And that kind of hit home for me because I don't teach for a public school. I don't teach for a private school. I run a homeschool academy. My specialty is history, and we have a theater program, and I have a niche. I'm working hard to get to a point where I have teachers who I can pay well because I don't believe in underpaying teachers, so that I can work on the guidance counseling part, getting these kids into college, and work on the theater part. Like, it's so important that what you do in teaching fuels you. I remember back to when I was in school, my happiest teachers were the ones who loved their subjects and weren't um, filling in for other subjects that they just really didn't care about. Okay. Someone else wrote, as a second year teacher, I'm exhausted. Dang. It took me a year 4 to get tired. I came into teaching knowing I was not going to be a teacher for long. I was going to be a pilot. Always have, but it's expensive. I'm probably going to I'm probably going to go to 5 years and get my loans forgiven fully through teaching and a free and reduced lunch school. I don't know the technical name. I'm starting my private pilot's license way sooner than I thought because I'm exhausted constantly. I make decent money and can afford to live alone. I work in an amazing district with so much collaboration and support on lesson planning. I do maybe one lesson plan or two a quarter for Algebra 1. It's still not enough to have me not burn out. I'm teaching an extra class for a 14,000 pay bump, but it's still not enough to make me stay. I'd pay an extra class for an extra four. I'd teach an extra class for an extra 14,000. I love teaching, just not the other point. Woo. Guys, I'm getting tired. I love teaching, just not the other parts. I got it. Someone else said, I resigned in May after the year ended. I started a job in finance the day after classroom checkout. No summer, but doable pay was nice. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. No summer, but double pay was nice until my contract expired September 1. I just felt burnt out and didn't see that feeling change. Mainly tired of constant behavior issues to where nothing's done. Felt like a babysitter more than a teacher. Whenever I stop and pause, it's because I'm feeling in my soul what is being said. And the reply to that was, yep, I feel like a babysitter too. No teaching is getting done because I'm spending all my time putting out fires. I once heard someone describe school as math-flavored daycare. And it's very fitting. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, this is a good one. Crazy principal. Crazy principals will make you quit, won't they? I have a teacher friend whose principal would reward and punish, reward and punish, reward and punish. And he finally got from under that principal. It says, my principal nitpicked everything I did. I had to have every standard on the board I was teaching, including an I can statement, even though the curriculum came with all of that. And I couldn't just put the focus on the wall. However, she demanded I have a separate learning goal that would be there all week. I was the only teacher in the entire building required to do that? That's wild. I also had to constantly defend myself from crazy accusations that had no truth. For instance, a parent claimed I screamed, I love Joe Biden. Oh my gosh. And was indoctrinating the students to be crazy liberals. She knew it wasn't true, but demanded to know the story and that I was close to not being welcome back next year due to this. She also wrote me up because a parent told her I said my IEP kids sunk one day, meaning they didn't learn anything due to their behavior. I told the parent this a month prior at a coffee shop downtown on a weekend. I've had colleagues slam doors in my face and refuse to help me find curriculum materials so I could plan. They also wouldn't help me find tests or quizzes that the district used. It sounds like they just were bullying you. Why do teachers bully each other? The principal also had resignation, termination, and a pile of documents on her desk when I went to resign. She was preparing to fire me without cause and was upset I had resigned before she could fire me. Oh my God. No, this teacher was just being bullied. This teacher was like the kicking boy at the school. Ultimately, by far the most toxic work environment I have ever worked in. This was also at a school in a very affluent part of town and a Trump loving area. I'm a liberal and a colleague. Okay. All right. Yeah. So this teacher was just being bullied because they stood out politically from everyone around them. That's the worst. That's the worst. It really is. And honestly, that's actionable. I would try to sue. But I mean, if that's the area you live in, I don't know how far you're going to get. Okay, so for me, um, I have been having a lot of problems with not fitting in socially and politically um, with, you know, the families that you support. It's not that I don't, it's that I work very hard to be super inclusive to everyone. And in being super inclusive, I attract people from opposite walks of life. And so I have kids who are not getting along with each other because um, they disagree vehemently. And then so I have children and parents coming to me. And I think it was said that by being inclusive, it was starting to cause problems of not being inclusive um, because the kids didn't agree with each other. And so they're starting to form little cliques based on, you know, what they prefer. Um, I think that's a learning. I think that's an opportunity for learning personally. Um, I hate that this teacher was getting bullied by the principal and everyone else because their politics differed from everyone else at the school. That's toxic. And that's not a normal reason that teachers resign, however. And that's the point I was trying to get to. I live in Georgia. Um, and then the state next to me, Florida, has gone overboard with a lot of book banning. A lot of book banning and a lot of altering history to make sure history is taught in a way that no one is ever made to feel bad about what's happened in history. And look, I teach American history. Like, it's hard to teach American history and not point out that people have just behaved horribly um, in the world. And I'm just really bothered by all the censoring that is happening out here. And that does affect me as someone who runs a homeschool program because sometimes I feel like I'm walking on eggshells when simply teaching history facts. Um, Parents don't give me a hard time in general, um, but I know what their politics are, so it makes me anxious sometimes. Um, and then when it comes to books, I built a school library up, and I want it to be full of banned books. I want kids to be able to read whatever they want. If a parent doesn't want a child to read a book, then that parent can tell that child not to read that book, but that shouldn't become an issue for all the students in my program. Like, the parent can come in, shop through the library, and pick the books that they want the kids to read. If their kids don't listen to them, that is also not my problem. Right? Right. Oh, last story. Last story. I'm going to give it my full focus. I hope you like my angels. They will have pom-pom heads and then a string on top. It says, it's my second year. Last year, a student threatened to kill my dog and had a 2-day suspension and was not removed from my classroom. My husband just turned off the lights in the apartment, including the light in my bedroom. A restorative circle was offered, but did not happen. I then broke my knee and needed surgery at the beginning of January. When I returned, students were rude and awful. I was in pain and on crutches, so my energy levels were not high enough to deal with it. This year, a student threatened to lie to admin about my touching them inappropriately when I called the office to escort them out, which is school policy. They were removed from my class, but I have anxiety attacks at the school. Friday, I went to the nurse because of chest pain and had to go to the hospital. The principal offered to transfer me, but I don't know if it will be better at other schools in the district. I have anxiety just thinking about teaching at a different school. I know starting later means I have to deal with establishing classroom expectations and routines close to the end of a quarter, and I need time to recover from severe anxiety. I teach ELA, and so many students tell me they don't read. Some claim they can't. I deal with this. But stop real quick when I move to teaching the alphabet. Other than my honors group and a few students in my other classes, they don't care. They don't want to challenge themselves, which I get. But cursing each other out, cursing at me, being plain mean in front of adults, etc. The student who threatened me when I mentioned calling home, which would have made me straighten up and fly right, a phrase my grandfather said a lot, said, "What's my mom gonna do? Have a conversation with me?" Yes, your mother should be talking to you regularly. I have started applying for non-teaching jobs. I am also thinking of going back to school for either counseling, because the one-on-one guidance is what is easiest for me, or library science, working in a public library, not a school one. Fingers crossed that I hear back from the library position I applied for, which didn't require an MLS. I like many of my students, but the ones who make teaching suck also make it unbearable for me. Honestly, we need to bring back holding students back if they aren't meeting grade level standards and after school detention. Because if we don't make it a problem for the parents, the children often won't face consequences. I don't get why some, not all, parents like today feel like they can't take away cell phones, computers, etc. from their children. The one time I had detention, I couldn't watch TV for a week, and my mom enforced the lights out policy too, so I couldn't just stay up all night reading. We need more support from parents too, because if they don't have the time or energy to parent, that isn't good for society. We need more child teen spaces so children can be social and learn how to behave in public. But I can't fix that by myself. And with my anxiety, I don't have the ability to do much work toward that. So I'm going to leave as soon as I can. Part of me is hoping my district will put me on paid leave or let me take unemployment so I can be looking for jobs full time. I am married, so we can afford for me to be on unemployment for a time. I could take a pay cut and be okay since I earned $15,000 less as an office manager at the university when we bought our house. I know not everyone has that privilege, but I'm thankful for my wife, who may also be getting a promotion with a significant raise at her job. Worst comes to work, I will work at the pet store close to my home until I find a better job, or work there full time since I enjoyed working there for the most part um, over the summer. And I would get a discount on dog and cat stuff again. So, yeah, I think if I look at all of the reasons that I've read over the last hour of why teachers are leaving, um, it really does come down, I think, to students being unprepared. And so, where is that happening? In my program, because I teach homeschoolers, I find that the most prepared students um, have parents who review their homework with them, make sure they understand it, let them do it, go back, review again, and ask questions. Like these parents know what their children are writing. These parents know what their children are reading. These parents know what functions their kids are working on in math class. If a parent looks at me and says, hey, my kids said they felt unsure of math today, and I look at them and say, oh, what function were they working on? And they can't answer that, or they can't even say, the thingy with the thing, like give me something that indicates that you even looked at the book. Those are the kids who are falling back. In the public schools, um, this whole idea over the years has been like, at home, the kids are with their parents, and at school, the kids are with their teachers, and there's no overlap. Um, and that's a problem. Parents need to be on it all the time. Like, you have these kids, you want them to be upstanding adults. If you don't push and make sure that your kids are learning and doing their work and progressing through schools and not driving teachers to distraction to the point where they want to quit, it is going to cost you later, because your kids aren't going to be productive adults and you're going to be paying for their lives as adults. And that's going to ruin your retirement. So I have lost my voice. I hope you enjoyed this chat. I will be editing it and posting it as a full video. Please share it. And till next time.